Alright, welcome back to the rest of the story. This is pretty much all I have of the action shots I took for planting. So I know some of you are probably looking for them, so it just made sense that I did at least get them sent out in a video for you. But what I'm doing is folding and unfolding the planter and then heading across the field. I actually just finished a part of a farm here, and I'm folding up and I have to move to another part or another field that's a part of this farm. Now what I'm doing is there's a little bit of a process that goes into folding this planter up, and well, you guys actually are aware of the fact that it's easy to forget some of the steps. That little pin, rod, cast piece that is in front of the cylinder there that folds this wing, I busted that once. I almost busted it 3 more times after that. Not because I was being careless or I'm in a rush. It's easy to forget all of this stuff, especially when you get sidetracked, because I try to just go from left to right or right to left, doing everything on this planter. So there's the pin that I forgot to put in, but I'm going through, I'm taking the pins out. There is, well, you just saw me tighten down that strap that holds the 2 halves of the planter together, because the planter does fold in the middle, so when you get on uneven ground. I don't know what I'm doing here. I already put I have 2 bungee straps I put on row 3 and 9 because they are the outermost rows with the Keaton seed farmers that hang down the most, pointing forward, and it actually has saved me numerous times I've seen this spring already, because this thing really doesn't get that high when you are transporting it. Also on the outside 3 rows that are folding in right here on each side, you see it does have the transport lock that just snapped in. We actually put re-rod in on each of these 3 rows where they pivot. Actually right at the end of the handle is approximately where the re-rod goes, and that actually helps get the front 6 rows, to actually get a little bit more height, to get them off the ground, because otherwise when we're going through field roads or honestly just any uneven ground, going between the farmers, whatever else, they catch. And this actually saves us a lot of grief, because I've had 2 issues with the seed firmers. I had one right at the beginning of planting where I had to change it out. You guys saw that. And then I did have another case where one of my seed firmers, those plastic pieces, it did catch when I was pulling through the driveway at my place, and I actually had to cut back the plastic tube and re-splice it on. Relatively simple, but dealing with that fertilizer, I went through about half a box of nitrile latex, I guess they're latex, gloves. I'm trying to keep my hands clean. That's why I do wear those blue gloves when I had them in that last video. The reason I wear them, or the reason I still had them on, is usually if I'm still wearing them in the tractor, after I've already filled and gotten going, is that I'm making sure that I don't have to get out and make any adjustments or deal with any of the parts of this planter. So I don't really like driving around with that fertilizer or graphite all over my hands if I can avoid it. So I went through. If you guys hadn't noticed, you'll see it really quick. I did forget a part or a piece of unfolding this planter. I went through and did the pins. I took out the re-rod and the bungee cords. At least I should have. I guess I wasn't watching. I turned the fertilizer back on, and I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to drop it back down. I'm going to jump back out, and I guess you guys will see what I forgot. But planting is done. I'm gonna actually go through today and work on cleaning the planter up. I am one of those people that learned from experience. I do not like to clean the planter up as soon as we're done planting. You guys seeing part of what I forgot there? I guess there's 2 things I forgot, because there's a lever for transport and field use on this planter, which locks up the wheels. And you're noticing that my wing wheels aren't down, and the planter is kind of wobbling back and forth. But I am one of those people that I do not like to put the planter away as soon as we're done planting because I want to wait until all of our crops are out of the ground. Now this potential frost that's coming up isn't concerning to me at all. I worry about potentially crusting or emergence issues with the crop actually getting up out of the ground, because it's been a couple years now where we had 2 years in a row where I went through, put the planter away back in the corner of the shed, took the duals off the 46, and I'm taking off that strap right now because the frame is actually lock solid. And then about 2 weeks after we had the planter put away, went out and doing our crop checks and realized that we had a 50,000 stand of soybeans. The ground crusted over after a hard pounding rain. We got a hot baking heat, cooked the ground, and we had about an inch of crust over top of our soybeans that could not get through the crust. So we had to go through and replant. First time, okay, yeah, it happens. So the second year, did the same thing, put the planter away after planting, whatever else, and then we ended up having about 30 acres that had similar issues. That was no-till soybeans, and it got hot, and the beans actually were able to come up, like the stem had gotten up, but it wasn't able to pull the, oh man, it's too early in the morning to be doing this. It wasn't able to pull the head of the plant, the soybean plant, through the crust, and it was actually breaking the stems off because it couldn't pull it through the crust. So we had to go replant. So now, one of those learn from experience things. I just simply refuse to unhook the planter. I'll go through, I'll clean it up, I'll pressure wash it off, get the fertilizer off of it, winterize the fertilizer, because if we have to do any replanting, I'm not putting fertilizer on it. It already had that chance, in my opinion. I'll take all the row units out, clean all the seed out of them, do what I typically do to put the planter away, grease it up after I wash it off because I want to make sure that the grease is fresh in it. When you go to put it away, it keeps the zerks fresh, keeps everything from locking up. And as soon as everything is up out of the ground and off to the races, then we can unhook the planter. We got about 3 weeks before we need the 46 for making hay. The duals are coming off. I don't know if we're going to use it for cutting hay this year to try to take some of the pressure off the 76. We really haven't gotten that far. I'm really thinking about using the 8235 to ted hay, just because I can. And probably not going to ted everything with it, but just one of those things just to bug some people that are maybe bugging me, just to prove that we can use the 82 for whatever we want if we want to. But that's just me. So am I looking forward to hay? I know I'm switching gears here from talking about planting corn. I went down and checked my hay ground last night, and I am really happy with how it looks. For being the 5th of May, and for it being already knee-high on me, the fertilizer that I put on that stuff back in, a month ago, is huge. Rolling coal. Fertilizer on that ground is going to be awesome. The ground is drying out, the bottom ground, about 85% of it is dried out. There's some wet spots down there yet because it was actually flooded out here not that long ago, but the river has receded. As long as we don't get a whole bunch of rain here going forward that pushes the river back up, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic that hay is going to be pretty awesome this year. If I can make that 3 crops down there, I'll be satisfied. June 1st, first week of June, middle of July, wait about 45 days for second cut, and I'm going to fertilize after first cut for sure, probably second cut. It's going to be as it gets here, but then after waiting 45 days for the middle of July, and then I'll probably wait about 60 days or so, the middle of September, and try to cut it right before planting. Try to get as much out of the season's growth as I can, which I think has been thinking about it, how I'm going to do it all winter, and I've pretty well settled on that. So you guys can see the planter rows going floating across the ground here. We do have the airbags in the planter. I think the airbags are so much better than the springs we used to have on the 1760 and the 7200. The 6-row planters we had. This is the first airbag system we've ever dealt with. Not perfect. Everybody says, or I say everybody, I say our agronomist, actually would prefer if we went with hydraulic downforce. I mean, you'd get more even emergence, which is huge when it comes to going for maximum yield, which is what we would like to do, of course. Who doesn't? But let's face it, tech costs money. The row shutoffs and the on-track, I think, is huge. Granted, yeah, we could actually plant without using the on-track or without the guidance, but I gotta tell you, I planted all of our corn. I planted over 90% of our crops, other than that little bit Ryan planted. I'd like to straight track as much as the ground will allow. I mean, you can't straight track everything, but the reason I like to do that is because it makes it so much simpler for the guy spraying, for the guy that's going to run the cultivator across it. Granted, we're not going to cultivate everything, but we're probably going to try to do as much as we dare. I'm only going to side dress a bunch of mine. Now, Dad's not side dressing any of his, but I'm sure he can cultivate it. Also, it makes it a lot easier when you're harvesting corn. You don't get quite so worn out by the end of the day by chasing rows and just shooting back and forth. Open up your fields and go back and forth. It's a lot simpler. We do have the contours on some of our farms because we need them. I mean, we don't have to do them, but then I don't want to get away from the contours either on the fields that we still have them. So, all right, I'm actually running out of video here. I talked a lot more than I thought I would. So you guys can stay tuned for some hay work, some shop work, or some shed work. We don't have a shop, our shed shop. I'm going to be working on some equipment here because we have some that actually need some TLC, tender loving care, before we get into the hay season. But I'll try to show more of that as we're going here. I'm kind of getting back from the exhaustion of planting there for 10 days straight. But you're watching the rest of the story. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Take it easy. Keep in touch. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.